So, we are talking about the principles of design this week because I want you to become more comfortable breaking away from essay format, essay style writing, and essay format, especially. You're not really, never, not once in this class, are you submitting a document that looks like a 5-page research paper, for example, because this is more of a professional writing course. You're learning how to draft more business professional documents. So design helps you get there. So think about font style. Think about what makes this first font more appealing than something like this. This first font to me is more universal. It's clear, you can distinguish each letter clearly, and it's easy to read. The second font, you can still read it, but it's a little bit almost cursive, not really, it's more italicized. I almost get not a creepy vibe from it, but kind of a chilling kind of vibe. I think of it more for an invitation or a party or something. So you have to think about why, when, and where to use certain font styles. When is it okay to use this or something like this? This first style to me is kind of whimsical, fun, maybe for a kid's birthday party, for example. Something like this looks very formal. It's formal cursive. Maybe I think of a wedding invitation. So whatever comes to mind when you think of font is what your audience thinks. So you have to think about font style. You also have to think about color. How does this style seem? You can read it, but it's kind of hard. For me, I have to squint because the yellow with the white background is not good. It's too hard for your audience to see. So you don't want to choose bright colors where it's difficult to follow. What about this? It's the same color and you can see it better, right? But is it still appealing? Does the yellow and black go well together? In my opinion, they don't, because I think of caution, I think of warning signs, I think of a bee. So it doesn't quite work well. When you combine colors, think about what colors go well together. So why are we talking about this in a writing class? This is why font matters. Selecting something as simple as font can change the entire purpose of a document. Look at those samples we just looked at. We immediately thought of different locations, different events related to font. So consider who and what you are writing for. If I told you to design a birthday invitation, you'd probably jump to some of those fonts. If I told you to write an email pretending you were in a office sending important information to employees, you would use something very simple, Times New Roman, for example. So considering what and who you're writing for will help you make decisions based on design. If you were creating an invitation, you may consider something like this font. If you were writing a research essay, you would choose that standard Times New Roman or something of a similar style. If you're writing a professional document, maybe you have a little more room. You don't always have to do Times New Roman, but you still want it to be legible and professional. So let's talk about the elements of design. We're going to go into each one of these. So contrast. Do you want to make certain words stand out, like I did right here? That's using contrast. So I want you to get comfortable with using it. Don't overuse it. Sometimes I catch myself overusing it. But if you want your audience to stop and pause on a word, that's using contrast. By making elements look on a document look different, you are hinting. It's your way of hinting without having to say it, to focus on something. Sometimes the word red, I use it for due dates. Due, because I want you to pause and remember, kind of warn you. Watch out, there's a deadline coming. Contrast helps grab the reader's attention without you having to write more to tell them to pay attention. So this image is a use of contrast with the pop of color there. Repetition, very important. Used for consistency throughout an entire document, whether that's the same colors throughout the document, the same font styles, the same font colors, the same bullet points. They're all a continuation of something to make an entire document sections cohesive, so the audience knows it all belongs to that one entire document. So repetition, I use it here with these bullet points. I also use it with this heading here because this repetition looks exactly the same as alignment. It looks exactly the same as proximity. It's the same style throughout. all section headings in this class, anytime you use section headings, should be the same size, color, and font. You should make section headings a little bit larger than the subtext below it. For example, again, repetition. This is a little bit larger size than the information here because it's letting the audience know this is the next section and this belongs to it, so that when they move on, they know that this is an entirely different section as well. So this image kind of demonstrates a pattern for repetition. Alignment, this is important too. Every element visually connects to another element. It's cohesive. So it's not like this, meaning it's all aligned to the left or to the right. This is aligned with this. So it's clean and it's easy, again, for the audience to follow. So this is in alignment. This is out of alignment. So think about that as well. Proximity, relating images and words near each other on the same page. That tells the audience that they belong together. It establishes a connection between groups of texts and images as well. So if you notice, these circles are all together, meaning they belong to each other, and there's a space to signal that this group of circles is different. And then this space separates this group, so using proximity. For example, having a heading, a section heading, I have a typo there, having a section heading titled Target Market with the text directly below it tells the audience that the information below Target Market belongs to it. It's all part of the same. Then you add a few spaces between the next section heading to kind of separate it as well. Think about what I did here. I have the word video lecture here, and directly under it is me talking about what the video lecture is for this page. I don't have a large space here and separate it because that would be a little confusing for you. Anything that belongs together, I keep it in close proximity for. Order. What is the most important information you want your audience to know about? You would place that first, the order of importance. It's a visual way to hint what information is important that they need to know right away first. Whatever section heading should go first. What's the most important section heading? That would be using order. For example, you're thinking about the marketing plan this week. I told you I don't really care about the order of the sections, but the organization name and logo should be first because I immediately want to know who you're representing before I get into anything else. So that's using order. White space. Using blank space for the design so that the images, the text, anything else doesn't appear too crowded. Using white space helps break away from overcrowding. It helps the audience navigate. And you can also break up white space if it looks too blank, because sometimes you don't want something too blank. And you can add image borders around the entire document. So if you look at this image, this right here uses white space, because if there was 10 different images and a lot of writing all crammed here, it'd be really hard to focus, right? So using the space helps the audience navigate easily, and it's a smooth transition throughout. And then they also used a page border with this around here because it looked a little too plain before. You don't always have to use page borders. Sometimes it's relevant, sometimes it's not, but it's an option as well. So why are we talking about this? Utilize design principles in all of your assignments for this class. Use bullet points. Use white space if it's appropriate. Make sure you're using section headings in this class till the end of the semester. So make sure section headings are consistent, that they're a little bit larger than the subtext, and that they are all the same size, style, and color. Make sure font and color schemes match. And avoid bulky paragraphs. We're going to get into concise writing a little bit more as we move on into the semester, but using bullet points already starts to make it easy to read, easy for the audience to follow. This would be really confusing for y'all to read if I had all of this in one long paragraph and you had to kind of try to follow along. Instead, I'm using bullet points to list the different important points to consider. If we're not really thinking about charts and images right now, we kind of are with images, but because you can use images in your marketing plan, by the way, but make sure they're aligned, meaning, have them all aligned like this to the left or aligned all to the right so that they're not thrown all over the document as well. caption them if relevant. You don't have to caption an image, but if you have a chart, if you're working on a research report, you would have a caption just to describe the chart. So think about design for the rest of the semester. So if you take a look here, I have a brief little sample of using the design principles. My section headings are the same color and size. Product description section is size 22. It's bolded and it's green. Target market is not 22. Whoops. Target market 22, bold and green. And then my subtext is size 14, size 14. And I'm using proximity because this sentence relates to the product description. Why? Because this font falls directly below the section. Then I use a little bit of a space, and then I have information below target market that relates, instead of doing something like this or even something like that. It makes it very confusing. So that's already taking on the design principles in a simple way so that the audience knows to be guided along to each new section and where it belongs.